Hello and welcome back to Sprite Guard Plays HyperRogue. We are going to set out on another adventure. There's still a lot for us to see and try to do, and I am really looking forward to this one. I have been thinking a lot about kind of adventure stories recently. I've been watching a lot of streams on Twitch and kind of thinking about what makes good viewing. I'm always wondering about what makes good entertainment, and what I'm enjoying keeps changing, and what I'm thinking about is always changing. And recently I've been watching the streamer who goes by the handle Fat Monk. I've been really enjoying his stuff. I first got into him when he was doing some surfing, which is in Counter-Strike. There's a glitch that has to do with when you land on a sloped surface, you end up moving very quickly. And this has turned into like this whole competitive racing game of just people sliding around on sloped surfaces in this game. And it's a really beautiful kind of game mode. It's, just people moving in really kind of fluid ways that I really enjoy watching. And so I was just looking around for people who were good at this, and it's very challenging. So I see a lot of people who just aren't able to get that kind of fluid motion that I really enjoy watching. And so I came across this guy who was pretty good, and I started watching his stuff, and he turned out to be a pretty cool guy, and so I started watching him pretty frequently. And he started playing Diablo as one of the other games that he would stream. And I was thinking a lot about the story of Diablo. It's the writing is what I described as pleasantly cheesy. It's this very kind of over-the-top adventure writing, and it's kind of very Campbellian, very almost, I want to say, like Lester Dent kind of, you're always in trouble and the trouble's always growing. And Joseph Campbell and Lester Dent are both writers who have identified kind of common patterns within adventure stories, and I find their work really interesting. And so that's kind of what I've been thinking about as I go into this new recording. I was thinking that I really am, one of the things that I'm really interested in is this whole idea of emergent narrative. And that is something that is really common in roguelikes in particular, and is something that I really enjoy about roguelikes. I often tell people that in a good roguelike, dying is as fun as winning is, because you always have a story, whether you live or die. And that's kind of getting at the heart of emergent narrative, is this idea that you are always on an adventure, and the details of the adventure always change, but the adventure makes a story, that we have this character that we are following around, and that character is going on an adventure, and just kind of accepting that there's very kind of simple adventure stories at the heart of a lot of the stories that we tell, and the overall arc is the same almost every time, just there's lots and lots of different details. And that's something that I really like about adventure stories in particular, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot. I was thinking that I wanted to start playing a game similar to Diablo in the way that it kind of plays out, but I wanted something with more emergent narrative, and this is the best game that I have for that right now, and it's a game that I'm still really enjoying playing. And so I decided that I was going to kind of go into it with that eye of looking for the emergent narrative, seeing if we can figure out what story we're living as we're living it. And that's something that I have talked about in the past, and it's something that I want to kind of continue to think about and look at, but I also want to kind of always be looking at how I am running this series and asking, am I actually living the things that I have said that I want to do? and that's something that I just want to constantly be questioning. And so in terms of looking for the emergent narrative, I want to kind of reframe how I approach this game in those terms. So what we're doing right now is we are trying to clear out the minefield because we want to have orbs of friendship available to us. And that way we will be able to get into the whirlpool, and we do want to try and conquer the whirlpool. That will be a very late thing that we attempt. We're going to do a lot of things before then. The ultimate goal is hyperstones. That's always our ultimate goal. But there's so much we need to do along the way that it seems almost insurmountable. I have not even come close to getting hyperstones in this version of the game, and I don't know if I can come close. I guess we came somewhat close in a more or less recent episode. I think we got like 15 or 16 lands cleared, but there are so many lands now that I have like lost count even. And there's so many questions about whether or not we even have what it takes. And so we just need to take it a little bit at a time and really just focus on what's right in front of us. And right now, what's in front of us is the biggest problem that we're looking at is the whirlpool. And so we want to have as much of an advantage going into the whirlpool as possible. Before then, though, we want to do a lot of preparation, and so this is one of the things that we're doing, is we're going to clear out the minefield so that we have orbs of friendship available to us. Another thing that I want to do is I want to gather up a lot of treasures from a lot of other areas and unlock a Yender quest. And the reason that I want to do that is so that we unlock the Cocytus. And I would like to go on a Yender quest. I think that would be really fun. But my main goal with doing that is that I want to have the lakes of the Cocytus available to me. And the reason for that is because there's actually an achievement that I want to get that I believe I have mentioned a little bit before, as being a really interesting achievement that I really want to work on, and that is getting a shark into the moat of Camelot. And so we will also be trying to go on a Camelot quest. So now we need to get out of the minefield, and we don't have much interest in getting any more eggs. There's not really any benefit to getting more than 10 bomber bird eggs. But we do want to keep an eye out for orbs of friendship. We're not really at the point where we need them. Okay, here we can do actually a little bit of logic. We know that this is only connected to one, and we know that this is only connected to one. So we know the two that this one is next to, so we can go there. We know the two that that one's next to, so we can clear that one, that one, that one, and that opened up just enough for us to get to the exit. So, things are going really smoothly so far. The early game has actually been made a lot faster and kind of smoother, and we have already gotten into kind of some of the more interesting areas, but I'm really eager to keep moving upward, keep moving onward, and work on... We want to get a Camelot quest, a Yender quest, and then we want to head into the whirlpool, so we have our work cut out for us. So in order to trigger the emerald mine, there are two ways of doing that. One way is the way that we have always done it, by going into the forest and then getting the flowers from there, and we also need gold, which we have gathered. The other way is by going through the palace, and in the last episode I attempted to show you the vizier, which is kind of a mini boss for the palace area, and I wasn't able to get one, but I've been attacked by a few today in kind of planning out this run, and so I am hoping that we will find one quickly. Until then, we can gather up rings. That will move us one step closer to our Yender quest, and one step closer to our Hyperstone quest. So, gathering up rings is entirely within the bounds of what we want to be doing in order to move forward. It's not actually a distraction from anything. So really this is opening up a lot of avenues to us. But I really also enjoy going into this area. I feel like the guards are not as interesting as I had hoped they would be. They ended up being pretty easy to deal with, though when they get into swarms, they can be pretty tricky, and you have to really plan out your moves. And so as we get more rings, and we kind of develop more threat, we should be seeing more situations like that. And of course, skeletons also are kind of a change. So here's a vizier. So they have 4 hit points, and you cannot attack them directly. You have to hit them by walking away from them, like flail guards. And so we do that, and the help text that we get is, he has been training in the emerald mine. Interesting. So now we have access to the emerald mine, and we can try and find that. And of course, once we get through the emerald mine, we will have access to Camelot, and we will have access to the moat in Camelot, which is the most important thing that I'm looking for. So things are continuing to go really smoothly. We have another vizier to fight, and again, when you don't have a lot of heat coming down on you, the viziers are pretty easy to deal with, and a lot of stuff in this game is like that on its own, it's not very dangerous, but once you get a whole bunch of them together, they become very difficult to deal with, very difficult to reason about, and you start having to plan out your moves very carefully. So the Dead Caves is not someplace that I really think would be very useful to go. Now, I'm kind of perplexed that there are these... Okay, so these look like rock ones, but they're called rubble, so it seems like either there was a graphical change, or possibly even a mechanical change to the rubble tiles. I would be curious to see whether or not these actually count as a rock 1 and would let us get onto a rock 2 if there was one. But, as I said, I don't really want to go into the Dead Cave because it's very dangerous, and we have a lot of danger still ahead of us. So when you're fighting 2 of these guys, timing it out can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but not too difficult. I think 3 is probably where it gets a little bit crazy. So the fjord is not really where we want to be going. The icy land actually would be nice just because we can navigate a little bit more freely. So we don't actually have any business in the icy land, I just want to be able to get around a little bit more easily. And we actually have a skeleton coming after us, so there's not really any pits to hit him into, and there's not really anywhere we can, well, we can close this door, but it won't actually cut him off, and so what we actually need to do is let him follow us into the icy land, and then hit him back, and that will stun him for a long time, and should allow us to get away. Maybe not the first time we do it, but eventually we should be able to escape him. And if nothing else, he is far enough behind us that he will get caught behind a lot of other stuff that we are starting to pull. So, we're looking for a crossroads now. We want to get into the emerald mine, and the easiest way to do that is from a crossroads. Now, this is a little bit dangerous because if we get 2 monsters on us at once, we need to make sure that we have a way of getting away from them. And there we go. I do like to sometimes go up against an ice wall while I'm doing combat, but that's dangerous because if you get 2 monsters up against you, that can very easily spell game over. And so I was a little bit worried about... I did want to melt through that wall, but I was a little bit worried about trying to do that while also fighting off a bunch of yetis and wolves. So, one thing that we actually should do that we have not done yet is visit the Land of Eternal Motion so that we can get some phoenix feathers and get some orbs of safety. Because My biggest hope for this episode in particular is that it will be long. I really want to have this kind of long, sprawling adventure that goes through many phases. And so, essential to that is going to be getting an orb of safety so that we can save the game, leave it off. It is pretty late as I'm recording this, and so I'm probably going to record a few of them in a row, which I don't normally like to do. I usually like to use orbs of safety, go away, take a walk, because it clears up my head a little bit for thinking of things to talk about. We actually still need 2 more phoenix feathers, so we will grab those. So I may end up having to leave it off, and there may be a gap in the series for a while, because I basically only have 1 day, kind of 2 days. Basically, I have Saturday and Sunday, and I usually use Saturday for recording and Sunday for editing, but it is already Saturday evening, and I am not... It seems like monsters are having a very hard time recognizing door tiles. Sorry for the kind of complete change in topic. So, usually I use Saturday for recording and Sunday for editing, but I have had kind of some bad luck with recording and made some kind of bad decisions, and so I don't really have that much recorded, and it is now... what time is it? It is 8:16, and I have a couple of videos that I'm pretty happy with, but I have not gotten any of this HyperRogue done, and so I'm actually a little bit worried about when I'm going to get this edited. I can record tomorrow, but then it becomes very difficult to edit the episodes that I've recorded, and I don't do very much editing. I basically review it and trim off the ends and add some fade in, fade out. But that still takes quite a while, because it takes about, if I record a 20-minute episode, it takes 20 minutes to review it, and then it probably takes another 5 to 10 minutes to trim stuff out, depending on how difficult it is. It can take upwards of an hour if there's a lot of stuff, like if I'm doing the Madden arrows, or if I have like a lot of ducking that I need to do, like I did with A Story About My Uncle series. Audio ducking being when you have 2 sources of audio, and you have to make one of them quieter so that you can hear the other one, and then you have to switch which one is louder. And I had to do that a lot in A Story About My Uncle, because the incidental sounds were too loud to go with my voice, and so I would just turn it up whenever characters were talking, but then turn it back down whenever I was talking. And that ended up using a huge amount of time, and I think is part of what contributed to my kind of getting burnt out a little bit. But I am feeling a lot better about this. I have no intention of doing any Madden arrows in this episode, though it kind of is up to me to play well enough that I don't get into any of those situations, and it will certainly be exciting if I do. So I have totally lost track of where I'm going. Oh, so it takes that amount of time to review and edit, and then it has to encode, which takes a really long time, like I have to go away and make a sandwich kind of thing, and then it has to upload, which again takes a lot of time. And when it's encoding, I can't really do anything except browse the internet, and then when it's uploading, I can do anything that doesn't use the internet. And so it ends up actually carving a pretty big chunk out of my day. And Sundays are also kind of my day for chores. And so I am a little bit anxious about when all of this is actually going to go up online. And what I find is that on the weekdays, I am just too burnt out to even just review and upload videos. And so it's really difficult if I end up missing... Oh dear. Come on. I need to find a heptagon, and I can't tell. I'm having such a hard time telling where the heptagons are because of the tiling. And so I made the wrong decision several times in a row, and ended up in more trouble than I should have been. That was kind of a bad play on my part. Now, of course, as soon as I don't need to know which ones are the heptagons, I can see quite easily which ones they are. So yeah, this series may end up being spread out really far. I've done that before. I don't like doing that, but if I don't have any opportunities to review and upload it, then it may end up having to wait for next week. And we are getting so much heat. I actually think I want to find my way to, let's see, can we do... Oh no, because we have to move away from the flail guard, and so we can't actually stab the hedgehog warrior at the same time that we get the pikeman, but we can still do that, and that is good enough. And then we can do that, and that gets us an Orb of the Mind, and so now we have kind of more of a fighting chance of getting out of here. Because if we get into a situation like that again, we have the way out. And let's see, it looks like there's a Crossroads Type 2 coming up, which may be good enough. I don't usually like it nearly as much as the Crossroads Type 1, because there's less chance for orbs to spawn, and it's much tighter. And so, what are we looking for now? I think at this point we're looking for an Orb of Safety. And here, a lot of the time, what will happen is I will actually be able to see a Crossroads Type 1 from a Crossroads Type 2. And now we are right back where I want to be, and so we are just going to be looking for an Orb of Safety, and we are going to probably, in the near future, want to clear out the fjords, and that will get us the Orb of the Fish. That's one of the orbs that we're going to need in order to get this shark project. But for now, we are going to just be looking for getting the Yender quest, unlocking the Cicadas, and getting, really checking to make sure that we have everything we need. I did see a Camelot spawn, so that is something that we should already have available to us. And then it's going to probably take a little bit of time for me to rest here and figure out what it is that I want to do in the next portion of this. So hopefully that will go up in the next few days. If not, it will be up next week, and I apologize. I hope that you will join me whenever it does go up, but most of all, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.